Well, I'm super excited to be with y'all today, and we've got a stand-in guest host. Wesley Edmonds is stepping in for Jamie, who's traveling around the country seeing her family. But super excited to have a growing brand that I've had a couple conversations with, and I know Jamie has had them on their podcast, but Elevator has been quickly growing and making a name for themselves in the co-warehousing space. But it's been super exciting, and so glad to have y'all here. And I'm going to let y'all introduce each other because I mean it always makes it that much more fun to have a dynamic duo on. So let's start with Shannon.
Yeah. Hi, Shannon Lerda. I am the co-founder and president of Elevator. This is a project that we've been working on since 2021. And we're just really happy to be here. I'm from the Midwest, and Emiliano and I are married. So not only are we running a business together, but we're running a life and a household together as well, which makes it extra interesting. I'll pass it over to Emiliano.
Oh, hello, everyone. My name is Emiliano Lerda. I'm originally from Argentina. And like Shannon said, this is an idea that actually Shannon had. I just happened to be in the right place at the right time. And I heard her say co-warehousing, and I loved it from the first moment. So then our mission was to bring that idea to life. And we've been working on it for 4 years plus now, learn a lot of lessons. We have made a lot of mistakes and grown, and we continue to evolve every day.
Well, let's start with how did y'all meet?
Aw.
You want
Emiliano?
Okay, so we need to keep this between us. Okay.
Okay. Between
Before
us
that-
and all the listeners.
and the internet.
Yeah.
Yes. But when I was 17, I came to Delaware as an exchange student. And then after that, I went to the University of Northern Iowa. The reason I chose the University of Northern Iowa is because I wanted to see the covered bridges of Madison County, because I had seen the movie and read the book. And so I really wanted to see those covered bridges. So that's what brought me to Iowa. And within a week or so of being at the University of Northern Iowa, I actually met Shannon at the dining center, typical, freshman at college story. And I knew she worked there on Fridays at noon, and I really wanted to get a shift at the same time to get to know her. That didn't work out, but about 3 months later, we actually did work together on a Sunday. And I was doing flipping Texas toast. What is it called?
French toast. French toast made with Texas toast.
Flipping them. I mean, I was really good with the spatula.
You won her over with your spatula skills, huh?
Yeah. And Shannon was a runner, bringing the food to the line. And so we got to work together. And then after that, there was a coffee date, and the rest is history.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was before cell phones and dating apps. So we met the old fashioned way. We've been married for 21 years, together for 25.
That's amazing.
That's amazing. And what's the family dynamics? How many kiddos?
We have 2 boys, teenagers at home. They're 15 and 13. So we're very busy. They're in the busy, active stage of life.
Yeah,
chauffeurs, primarily chauffeurs.
Yes.
They're both runners. So a lot of
Okay.
cross country and track meets, and getting them early to their morning runs with their buddies. So we don't get to sleep in, but that's okay.
Well,
Keeps
you've
you on
got less than a year before one of them's driving. So hopefully,
6 months.
yeah. And it's interesting. So I've got a few godchildren, and it's been so interesting. And they range, the oldest is she's 27, and the youngest literally just indoctrinated a new one this weekend. So the
Oh,
youngest is 6
yay.
months.
Oh, wow.
But thank you. It's been crazy because so many of these kids aren't in a hurry to get their permits or to drive because they got Uber. They can communicate through the phones. I mean, there's a lot of times where I'm like, last play date you had, they're like, oh, I go upstairs every night and I put my headphones on and I play video games with my friends. And I'm like, that doesn't count.
Agreed 100% with everything you just said.
Well,
We live in Atlanta, and I have 2 little boys, 8 and 5. But our neighbors are older kids around your kids' age, and they say the exact same thing. They say we're kind of in Midtown Atlanta, so tons of traffic, Uber everywhere. Waymo is starting to infiltrate the city. And yeah, we hear all of our friends say that they have to beg their kids to eventually get their license just to help out with little brother or little sister or grocery store errands.
Well, ours can't wait. Our oldest is eager to drive,
Good.
and he may be overconfident, but at least he's motivated.
Yeah.
He wants some independence.
Well, good.
I know a lot of friends have children that they're not in a hurry to get the license.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting for sure. Well, Shannon, let's start with you. Emiliano basically said that the words co-warehousing came out of your mouth first. And so where did that come from? What's your background? How did this even pop up?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I thought I invented a word. I thought I just made up a word and we had to Google it to see if it was already a word. And apparently it was. So, balloon deflated. The background is, so my background's in finance and commercial real estate. I was an underwriter for an insurance company I was a commercial mortgage underwriter for an insurance company for 7 years. And we moved to Omaha from Des Moines in 2012. And at that time, it was a great opportunity for us to kind of say, what do the next 10 years look like for our family? And so we started a company. We ran an e-commerce company out of our house, which with physical goods and shipping and receiving was not a walk in the park, but we learned a lot. Over a period of about 3 years, we actually grew it to where it was a profitable, ready to scale business. And it was at that point where we realized we needed to go to the next level. We needed to hire staff. We needed to increase the volume. And the only way we could do that was moving it out of our house. And we thought it was going to be much easier, an easy process to go get a warehouse. And that's where we were wrong. We started looking and saw that the warehouses that were out there were either not really nice places that you wanted to go spend time in, or they required a lot of money to fix them up, and even worse, they were, 10,000 square feet and in areas that were not that appealing. And also they required usually a 5-year lease commitment, which just seemed like it was overwhelming. It didn't seem like it was too much of a risk to take all at once. And we really like co-working. We're familiar with that business model. We love seems like cool companies and entrepreneurs doing interesting things alongside of each other. There's an energy and a vibe that is really appealing, especially for somebody who worked from home for 3 years and was ready to not be working from home. So, out of frustration, I was like, I really love co-working. They would not be a good fit for all the boxes and pallets and cardboard that we had in our lives, air pillows. So just said somebody should do co-warehousing. I said somebody should do that. And it was me venting a frustration and Emiliano being in the right place at the right time, listening to me. Thank you, for listening. And that's where the idea started. That's where the idea started. I'll let you take it from here.
Thank you. I'm quite a talker, so I talk a lot, and so me listening. I mean, I think that was the universe saying, "Hey, good things comes to those that listen." So I listened, and I was really excited. I at that time. So just a little bit of background. I went to law school. I'm a licensed attorney in Iowa. Then I moved to Omaha to lead a very, very small nonprofit organization. When I joined that organization, it was like myself and 2 other staff members. And then in 8.5 years that I was there, we went through a significant period of growth from 30 full-time FTEs to we have 42, and we opened 7 satellite locations across the state of Nebraska and Southwest Iowa. We did a capital campaign, bought a building, renovated a building. And after that, I went to work for a family office. One of our donors and long-term supporters, they were starting to do some real estate investment and development, and they were developing 2 districts. One of them was an innovation district, and really loved their mission. And these are people that are doing things not just to make money, but it's really to have a very positive impact in the community. And so I like that marriage of both the ambition of, hey, let's have a profitable business, but also make a positive impact in the community. Working in that family office for 3.5 years, I learned a lot about real estate investment and development from the very, very, first steps of putting together a pro forma and putting together a deal structure, if you will, a vehicle that other investors can invest in. And how are you going to manage that so that you can acquire an asset and then do the oversight of the improvements? I mean, that's a lot of work. And I had a really great learning experience working at this family office and benefited from mentorship, like really, really good mentorship. So when Shannon said co-warehousing, it just happened that at the family office, I have been reviewing several business plans for different co-working operators. And so it was when she said co-warehousing, I knew enough to know what were the key economic drivers and more or less profit margins. And that gives you a level of comfort and also understanding of what kind of capital needs are required at the very beginning. And so when Shannon said co-warehousing, I was like immediately very interested. And I said, well, I think maybe we should do it. And Shannon's just like, that's a lot of work. And so Shannon and I agreed that, while I needed to work for a little longer full time, that if she was able to get the business up and running and it got any traction, that I would come in and work with her and we would do it together, because it really is a lot. And frankly, now that we have been doing it for 3.5-4 years, I do agree I with our early assessment that, hey, it is a lot of work for one person to do it alone, especially if you want to grow. If you wanted to have one location, maybe, 100%, maybe you can manage it. But if you want to grow the way we're growing, then I think growing responsibly and overseeing that growth in a responsible way, in a way that is actually with a strong operating systems and structures, as well as well capitalized, I think, in access to that capital through financing, investments, et cetera, you really have, it requires a village. And it's not, frankly, just Shannon and I, it's Shannon, myself, and our team. And our team is made up of very bright young people that are very ambitious and really great workers and really responsible, very responsible professionals.
Yeah, so I think the interesting part with the co-warehousing side. So yes, Shannon, unfortunately, it was not your creation, but it is in your part of the world, right? But the interesting part is it's all every conversation I've had with people that have started co-warehousing, it's because they had a need, right? So the loading dock, I don't know how well y'all know them, but I mean, they came from, he started a mosquito repellent business because his wife was allergic to the chemicals and everything and off. And so they started a natural one. And same thing, just like you said, they were building out of their house and then got to the point where they needed somewhere and they didn't have it. So I think to me, that's super interesting, just how it's a need-based thing. And even as it relates to, Wesley and in OFS is they're in the furniture business, but then they saw the need for pods. And so they end up going and buying room. I don't know if y'all were aware of that, but OFS literally found this opportunity to go buy this provider. And that's because there was a need from what they were hearing as well.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so that's how Wesley got thrown in.
There's that. I mean, the growth of the e-commerce side, of course, is undeniably, just massive. The growth that we're seeing in that. But also, I had a chance to have a conversation with the editor-in-chief of Hospitality Design magazine a couple weeks back. And in her past life, she and her husband created a product, a sparkling water, which of course is a pretty aggressively competitive market. But they created a sparkling water that catered to expectant mothers. So it had a lot of the prenatal vitamins and a lot of the things that you needed to take, especially for anybody that either doesn't like taking pills or maybe has an upset stomach or has trouble during their pregnancy to actually get those vitamins down when you really need them. And part of their problem became the fact that their basement was covered in water bottles. Their kitchen counter was covered in flavor profiles. They were testing carbonated water in their living room. I mean, she said the water took over our whole house, and we had to make the decision, just like you guys. Does one of us quit our job entirely? And then possibly we both end up owning this water company and trying to make it happen, or they decided to just kind of push pause and see what happens a couple of years from now. But I think you tapped, maybe even accidentally tapped into something that any creator, small business owner comes up against if their product is physical, is eventually you either get sick of sitting on cardboard boxes in your living room or having to park in your driveway because your garage is your warehouse, or something along those lines. So I mean, obviously you tapped into something. Is that what a lot of your members are coming to you for? Is that does that tend to be a trend? Is this e-commerce owner operator type of business?
I think we've been surprised, by the way. Like, so it is true, about 60% or more of our members they do have an e-commerce component. So that continues to be true. However, it's been more diverse than we thought it would be. And we tapped into other industries that we never thought, they never crossed our minds when we started. And it comes down to, yeah, at the beginning, everybody was looking at that very, very attentively. We celebrated the fact that it's more diverse, as it turns out, on the type of businesses that we have than we originally thought, because it makes it more resilient.
Right.
So, but what you were saying is true. And it is something that we consider when we were early on developing the idea, is that overarching macro trend of more commerce is being done online. And that was the direction we were going before COVID. COVID really accelerated all of that, and it made it so much more, convenient, faster for people to do business online. So I think everybody got used to it and got over that hurdle. And so, kind of understanding the fact that there's also couple of the e-commerce boom with also more the Great Resignation. That's another piece of data that I always paid attention to. After COVID, a lot of people started chasing their dreams, chasing their passion. So you see more makers. You go to any fair or any market and in a local community, it's just more people chasing those dreams. I wanted to make Kindles. We had Kindle makers. I wanted to design and sell clothing. We have several clothing designers. So there is people that actually sell locally made products. They have retail stores, but they like to be here for their boxes, their like corporate box gifting boxes that they have and they assemble. So it has been a lot more like, we even have a company that does CPR training. We never thought about that, but they have dummies, and they need a place to store the dummies, and our conference room is ready with the tech so that they can do training and push them over the internet. And so really interesting, diverse interior designers. We have interior designers that they're out in the field, and they may receive a pallet or 2 or 3 with furniture. Well, our staff will receive that and put it in their unit. But one thing that I would say too is we found out very early on that we are ultimately in a hospitality business. And that's
Love
first
that.
and foremost. People may come for the flexibility in terms of the length of their membership, and they can do month to month or 6 month or 12 month. People may come for that. People may come for the flexibility of slicing up, slicing down. We had several people that started with 1 and then went all the way up to 7 units, and then they got their own warehouse. I mean, that's a great success story. We can tell you more about that. It's super exciting. But anyway, those type of stories and that to me is that, hey, people come for the space, but they stay because of the community that you're curating. And as all of curating, culture and community is something that you work at very hard. You never get it done. You never get it quite perfect. You're always trying. And even small mistakes sometimes are amplified and they become bigger than you think. And so you have to kind of really be careful. It's very, very, it's an art on how do you build that. But I think being in a hospitality business is something we realized early on. everybody was able to get that book set in the table. So we're all about, delighting our members and doing that in small and big ways. I'm sorry, Shannon, I'm going to pause and pass it over.
So it's funny. I was about to say, Shannon, when my sister and I were little, I've got a sister that's 16 months younger, and she would say, Giovanni, déjame hablar. Giovanni, déjame hablar. Because I talk so much that I would never let her talk. So she'd beg me to let her talk. And so we joke about it today. And so I was looking at you thinking about my sister when saying that.
Oh no, you gotta balance each other out. I talk.
Oh, no,
I
without
talk,
a doubt.
more at home.
So I'm
got
curious, Shannon,
opinions.
version 1.0, like how did that start? What's been the evolution from 1.0 to 4.0? Because I'll even tell you, like I read this last article that talked about your last location, and you're like in a building on upper floors. So like when I think of co-warehousing, I think of traditional industrial warehouse space. So I'm real curious to hear how you started and how you progressed to get to that point, and take it away. And I'll mute Emiliano.
I would say that our version of co-warehousing is probably less industrial than many of our competitors tend to do it. And that's just, I would say it speaks to our brand more than anything else. It feels like a co-working place when you walk in, and the lobby feels, the conference room, it all feels very co-working, but it's got all the things you need for successful co-warehousing, which is it's got a loading dock, it's got shipping and receiving areas, there's pallet jacks and dollies, and everything that members need to grab and go and do all the things that they need to do for their physical goods. But it's also a great fit for if shipping and receiving, if your shipping and receiving needs are light, you will still find a very happy home here. We're trying to go for locations that are cool. So a lot of urban locations. We have 2 of our 4 secured locations are multi-story. Actually, 3 out of 4 are multi-story, which is very unusual for warehousing. Our first location opened in 2022 in Omaha, Nebraska. Within 12 months, we were 93% occupied. And it's a 56,000 square foot, 4-story building. There's over 100 businesses here, and it's very much in the downtown urban core of Omaha. Our second location opened just 4 months ago in April, and in Des Moines, Iowa, and it's a 3-story, 40,000 square foot building in the downtown urban core in Des Moines. And these locations are very hard to find. Like, you really have to be patient. You have to be disciplined. We're not grabbing just any empty industrial building wherever it may be. We want it to be close to amenities like coffee shops, and we've got a library theme going. There's a library close to all of our locations. Coffee shops, libraries, restaurants, and walkability is really ideal. The third location, which is coming online in the fall, is Kansas City. We're going to be in North Kansas City, in a very cool, up and coming, gritty but vibrant and with a lot of small businesses, a neighborhood. And there's a brewery with like 10 steps across the street, where we also have a brewery theme going. And then our fourth location, which is the one that you mentioned, is in Lincoln, Nebraska. And Lincoln is a smaller market, less than 400,000 people. And I don't know if co-warehousing has ever been done in a market this small, but we're excited. We're excited to try it out. So what we need is a loading dock, which we have in the building, and a freight elevator, like a very well-functioning, easy to use freight elevator, so that pallets can go up and down and members can get their goods into their unit. We will be taking the entire 5th floor of was an old department store, in downtown Lincoln. So this is an interesting concept. We're not hesitant about being on the 5th floor, because our first location has four floors, and all 4 floors are well occupied and, appealing to members based on, the ones that have a lot of shipments. They might choose to be on the first floor near the loading dock, but most people really just want natural light and windows, which is one of those very rare things that you can, to have an industrial building or a warehouse with natural light and windows is a luxury that is really the most requested item, amenity that people want.
So
So,
due to the, sorry,
Go.
Gio, quick
yeah,
question.
go.
Due to the nature of what I'm assuming a lot of people are like maybe early morning shipments, or you're kind of up to when FedEx shows up or whoever it is. How long are your locations staffed? Like, how do you handle reception versus, is it 24/7 access? How do you handle all of that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we staff the building Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. And we have, in our Omaha location, we have 2 full-time staff. And in most of our locations, we will. Lincoln is a smaller location, so we might start with 1, perhaps 1.5 full-time staff. And they are the unicorns that wear all the hats, the typical community manager role. Although in addition to, greeting guests and making sure members have a great experience and giving tours, they're also receiving shipments. So if a pallet comes in, or incoming shipments are dropped off by Amazon, FedEx, UPS, or USPS, they are getting them into member units and making sure members know that they receive shipments. So we are staffed, but then we also allow 24/7 access for our members. And this has been something that, we've think that it's important, and a lot of members work on nights and weekends, and especially those artists and those scrappy owner run businesses, they've got an order to fulfill. They're going to be here until as late as they need to. And then all they have to do is put their outgoing shipments in the loading dock area. We have it under camera surveillance, and we make sure that it gets picked up the very next day.
Love that.
I love how intently you're watching and listening to Shannon. What are the 3 things you love about her most?
Attention to detail, absolutely 100% even keel. I mean, Shannon is, and her finance acumen. I think that she brings wealth of knowledge with a finance major and as a former commercial real estate underwriter that is so critical to our business. But being calm in the middle of the storm, and when we're securing financing and getting the really tough questions from underwriters or people that are potentially investing, Shannon communicates, she has the ability to communicate confidence and honesty, right? So those are her superpowers.
Oh, he didn't even have to hesitate to think. I love that. I think that is the quickest response we've ever gotten. So
100% that I've
clearly he
heard.
knows exactly what he loves about you. So that's amazing. So speaking of the financing side, how have y'all grown? I mean, did you take investors on? Emiliano, you mentioned the family office you were at was looking at some stuff. Were they part of this, or did y'all kind of bootstrap it, or kind of how have y'all grown?
Yeah, I think that, early on, we socialized the idea. And it was almost like you do that just because you're wondering, are you the only one seeing this? And it was down to a T. Everybody that we shared the idea with, everybody was saying, I think you're onto something I think this is truly a great idea. We have been wanting to build our own business since we started dating in college in 2000. Okay. So it's something that we have always thought about. We tried all kinds of different businesses, from making lamps to selling electronics online. I mean, so this is not a new phenomenon, right? And so when we socialized the idea, one of our investors and friends said to us, pepper us with questions, and then said, if you find a building that works for you, I will be willing to buy it, and then you can rent it from me. And that was a critical moment, because when that happened, we were like, okay, this is serious. Now we need to stop socializing the idea informally. We need to put a business plan together, a pitch deck. Let's go raise money, and let's start looking for a building. And so that was the catalyst, that moment. Then, yes, the family office that I worked with, they also participated in both acquiring the first building, but also in helping us with lead investments in the operating company. And we did a pre-seed round through a convertible note, because early on it was just an idea on paper, and so valuation is impossible to ascertain. And so we did a pre-seed round through a convertible note, and that closed early 2022. We started raising money in late 2021, closed that in 2022. And then we opened our first location in October. And then within 6 to 12 months after opening, so this would have been in 2023 now, we did a subsequent round for expansion. And the subsequent round was a qualified price round where the initial investors converted their convertible note, shares into shares, and then new people invested money. And then with that, we set out to open 2 new locations. So Omaha plus 2, that was the promise. And I'm very, very happy to report that we were able to now deliver. We're in the process of delivering 4 new locations. There's a 5th location that we are about to close on an acquisition on a building in I'm going to say it, in St. Louis. And so we
You heard it here
we want
first,
to be
folks.
want to be in St. Louis, and we love that community and the vibrancy. There's just so many other community assets, existing community assets. This is something very interesting. We don't take a cookie cutter approach. We go to every city. In Des Moines, it's different the way we interact and the way we collaborate with the existing assets, but we're very collaborative in nature. We know that we may have a little bit of overlap in competition with other existing co-working spaces, but there's enough demand that if we do a good job and we collaborate closely, we can refer people to them, they can refer people to us, and those that are not, in a scarcity mentality, they see the big picture and they're good collaborators. And so we like to do that. We're excited about St. Louis because the ecosystem is just so vibrant and there's just so many other assets to collaborate with.
So Shannon, as the detail person and the due diligence person, how's the growth been? Are y'all out kind of your investors? Are y'all acquiring all the buildings? 1, 2, who's leading the charge? Is it your investors that are saying, hey, these are markets we want to be in? Or are y'all basically saying, look, these are markets that we see a need in and we'd like to be in? And then last one is, how are you finding the spaces? I mean, are you hitting the ground running? Are you going through, existing relationships? Is there a broker? I mean, kind of how are you finding all these opportunities?
Yeah, that's a great question, and definitely growth is Emiliano's reign. But I can tell you, we are
By the way,
working
I
with
saw
a
him sit up
broker.
when I asked the
Yeah.
question, so I knew he was going to cut you off. No offense.
No, no, he won't. But we work with a brokerage
Okay.
team, JLL, a group out of Des Moines, Iowa, that we've known since college. And they actually helped us define and target, which markets would be a good fit for an elevator location. And we are open to both leasing or buying. Our operating company, Elevator, is always leasing, whether there's a related group of investors that are buying the building and then we're leasing it from them, or we're leasing from another party. We're always leasing. So Elevator itself is not necessarily acquiring those buildings in other markets, but we are open to leasing or acquiring. And then we are looking right now, just for practical purposes, we're a very small team. It's Emiliano and I plus 3 other full-time on our headquarters team. And so we're small, we're efficient. We have to be efficient. And so the locations that we're choosing for the first phase of growth are really geographically close. So from Omaha, and most people, outside of the Midwest wouldn't know this, but from Omaha, Des Moines is 2 hours away, Kansas City's 3 hours away, Lincoln is 45 minutes away, and St. Louis is 6 hours away. So it's all really within driving distance, or, there's also a nice, easy, short flight to St. Louis too. So we have options, but we really just want to make sure that we are able to be hands-on and ensuring the success of all 5 first locations, because this early on in the growth, you can't really afford to make a mistake and take on something that you're not very confident that you can execute on. So that's just the first 5 locations. And I think after that, we'll have options. We'll be able to see and proving it out in multiple markets and on multiple locations. We'll have options at what the next phase of growth would look like.
Really
Emiliano,
exciting.
baton's off to you.
No, I just, the only thing I want to add, I think Shannon covered it very well, is that a lot of our investors in the operating company, a lot of them, not all of them, are also well versed in real estate investment. And so they're people that are already invested in other real estate endeavors. And so whenever we find a building that is a good, it's a good buy and there's a good pro forma, we like to keep those separate though, because of the returns on investments on a real estate investment profile are typically more low risk, lower reward compared to an operating company. It's a higher risk, higher reward kind of profile and expectation on the return on that investment. So we try to keep those as, separate, but keep people that are interested in being on both sides or being on one only, but maybe the less risky or the more risky one, depending on what their needs are for the portfolio.
All right, now Shannon, what are the things you love most about your amazing husband?
I admire him because he is a visionary. He's one of those people who doesn't get bogged down in the details like I do. I get overwhelmed with all the details and, how are we going to do this? But he's like, gets at the 10,000 foot level very easily and can see clearly the path from point A to point B. And also it does a great job of bringing a whole team along with him. So he has a great way of communicating and motivating and building culture on our team that I think is I don't know, I think it's a natural gift. It's not something you can learn. And the other one is he drives head on into problems. So I tend to be more of a problem avoider. And he is not. He sees a problem and he's like, attack. It's not, let's address it right away. Let's talk it through. Let's figure it out and let's make a plan. So I think it's a good balance of what we have, but I really appreciate his bold leadership and ability to address problems head on.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love how well y'all collaborate together as a couple, right? Not everyone can work together, and I'm sure y'all have got your moments, but for the most part, I mean, there seems to be a lot of really good collaboration and mutual respect. So I think that's something hard to balance. So kudos to y'all. Emiliano, yeah, the hospitality side, do you attribute any of that to your culture? I'm Mexican, so the Latino culture is very hospitable and everything else. So you think there's some attributes there that you've drawn from your upbringing?
Yeah, I think so. I think, we have this custom in Argentina of drinking mate. I don't know if you ever heard of it.
Yeah.
It's a board with tea inside and a straw, and we pass it around. It's a very social drink. Somebody comes to your house and they basically come for a visit. Whether you know them a lot or well or not, or they're relatives, you invite them in and you offer them mate and you have a conversation. So I agree 100%. That has always been, I would say, values that were instilled in me growing up in Argentina. And I think that informed who I am. I'm very relational. And so oftentimes, Shannon may be writing an email that is very important. He said, you need to document it. As an attorney, I believe in documenting always. But I also tell Shannon, it's like, hey, after you send it, pick up the phone and call the banker, have that conversation, because it really is amazing how much more you can get done by just having a conversation with somebody, or here running into somebody and asking them what's keeping you up at night, or what are some of the bigger obstacles, and are there things that we can do proactively to help you connect with the right resource? I mean, I think that's the most important part of all that I think we walk away with is hospitality has a very practical, in addition to making you feel heard and cared for, it has a very practical application, which is it gives us the opportunity to provide that added value. And how do we do that? By asking questions. And then we know a lot of resources. For instance, several people that we know, small business operators, they were running their businesses with their credit cards and personal credit cards. And that seems to happen a lot. Well, there are CDFIs, there are nonprofit lending institutions. Some of them are actually here in the building, and would love to have people in organizations like that in the ecosystem that can provide either individual financing options or business financing options. So those type of very practical application tools that you can connect somebody to. We have an attorney in our building that actually was originally officing out of one of the warehouse units. Now he upgraded to an office unit because we have both, about 15 to 20% office and then about 80% or so in warehouses. But he has now developed, I think, 18 plus clients from within the building, because a lot of small, and I asked him, how do you find them? Because I just run into them in the kitchen and we start talking.
I think
That's
I would consider myself kind of I keep saying this, a newbie to the industry. I guess eventually I'll have to lose the newbie hat, but I'm hanging on to it because I knew what co-working was, but I have a degree in design. My history comes from kind of the traditional office space. So that's where I spent a lot of time focusing on the traditional corporate build out, 1 full floor, 3 full floors. It's just always kind of that traditional way of working. And so once I started to learn more about this co-working industry and everything about it and all the benefits of it, I think that is one thing that is just magic about this industry, is the fact that it creates these impromptu conversations. And not that that can't happen in a traditional workplace. Of course it can. But you tend to know everybody, or you at least know who they work for because you all work for the same company. And so it doesn't always invite those like, so what do you do? Because you're probably not going to do that in the break room when the person there works for the same company you do. But in a co-working place, co-warehousing, you're going to see someone new move into the one next door and just say like, all right, what are you here for? What do you do? How'd you find elevator? And it just, you tend to, there's joy in that. There's happiness in realizing other people are starting businesses just like you, and you can share the trials and tribulations of being a small business owner. Or, do you have a good attorney you could recommend? I'm going to need one for my new business. I mean, there's so much power in that. And I think for anybody that is listening and is also a little bit new to it, I think that's something we don't talk about enough in this industry. It's just so magical how that happens.
It is. I think that it's one of those things where it's one of the best things you can do for your business, whether you're an office user or a warehouse user, is get out of your bubble and go meet people and talk to people. And it's one of those, hearing the member collaborations is one of the most exciting and rewarding things that for me personally it makes it all worth it, because it's been a lot of work, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. And it is so rewarding to hear, 2 members collaborated, and helped each other out. And we hear that very frequently. And I think that that's just something that's part of the magic that you can't describe.
That's exactly right. And what a big thing maybe some of your competition is missing by not grabbing onto that hospitality side of what you do. Because like you said at the beginning, Emiliano, I think co-warehousing does immediately have that kind of industrial feel to it, right? It feels like it would maybe not be so personal, or maybe not quite so hospitality driven. So to have this industrial aspect of it, but to really focus on the hospitality side and to play that up as much as it sounds like you guys are doing, I think is really just spot on.
Thank you.
Thanks.
so. What's the exit strategy?
Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, I'll tell you what we always say is that we want to continue to grow. And right now it's, well, what I would consider organic growth, meaning one at a time, whether it's lease or acquisition and lease, but it's always, it's organic. Once we have 5, I think that would give us, we would have de-risked the model enough and shown people that we have the whereabouts of the capacity, operational capacity to do this responsibly. Ideally, we would like to be at 15 to 20, 25 locations within the next 5 to 7 years. And at that point, I think then it depends on what happens. I mean, if you have a lot of traction, if you're doing very well, you could continue to grow. And now if you have 15 to 25 locations in your portfolio, you could be potentially at a size that allows you to go not only do organic growth, but also strategic acquisitions. And that would be very exciting as well. So, and obviously at that point, I think you you'll be the one acquiring or you'll be acquired. So it's kind of, I'm not sure that there is a very singular kind of linear, here's what the exit is. Is more about, can we do a good job of growing in a way that is responsible with a strong foundation, organizational foundation, so that the value of the enterprise goes up. And whether we acquire people or we be acquired, this is a cash flowing generating business. So an exit is not the only way in which you can return the investment money to the investors.
Shannon, you got a big old smile. What's going through your head?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's a little bit surreal looking back and where we started. Sorry, I just lost an AirPod. Looking back at where we started to where we are now feels surreal. I think we've come a long way. And when you're in it, you sometimes forget to stop and look around and be like, wow, it felt like the days were long, but we've really made a lot of progress in a short amount of time. And I'm very excited to see what it looks like 5 years from now.
Just like looking at that 15-year-old being like, wow, how'd we get here?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we had one of those moments yesterday. We're like, who are you young man who lives in our house?
I think it's the first day I got called bruh. And I was like, wow, that didn't take very long. I used to change your diapers and now you call me bruh. Something that was weird.
Yeah, I can relate.
That's awesome.
But I also want to say it wasn't easy. It sounds, it may sound easy, but we had at least a couple of near-death experiences with the business, right? Like there's been some serious trials and serious challenges that we had to overcome. And so, I mean, at some point, maybe at another session, we can talk about the learned lessons, because those are usually painful, but they're really, really valuable. And so I think we're secure enough and bold enough to believe in our ability to grow and to manage this responsibly, but we're also humble enough to listen and to understand what feedback may be from the members, from the business, from our team members, and always create that space for that critical feedback to come back in and be able to discern. I call it, intelligent persistence. We can all talk about, oh, this requires a lot of persistence. Yeah, but being persistent at every turn doesn't really always work out. Sometimes it's a waste of time. So being intelligent in terms of discerning when to be persistent and when to not, I think that's a very critical component for building and growing a business. I imagine this is true for every business. So my respect, goes out to all the small business owners, because it requires a significant amount of sacrifice.
So lessons learned. I'm sitting here. I pulled up my schedule real fast, and you can't see. This never works. My schedule for the GWA conference, and I'm trying to see where I can squeeze in lessons learned and stick y'all on there.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
I'll have to reach back out and see if I can finagle some stuff around. But are you
I do
planning
think
to go
that's
to GWA?
We are like underwater right now, so we're not planning a whole lot of anything else in the next 6 months other than opening locations.
Well, that's awesome.
But we're trying to keep our heads above water right now.
Yeah, don't drown.
So
That's
reach
not
back
good.
out. Let us know. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Well, perfect. Well, certainly really appreciate you all joining us. And it's an amazing story to see unravel even from afar. And I'm still excited to get out there and see your locations. And especially now that the more we talk about it, the more I'm just like, man, I want to see how this is deployed and executed and everything else. So certainly I need to make a trip up there to see several of them. So I'll follow up with you guys on that as well. But again, thank you so much for joining us, and definitely I will take y'all up on lessons learned, and we'll just kind of go from there.
Thank you.
It was great to connect with you again.
Yeah,
Thank
so
Yeah, of
you.
nice
course.
It's
to
very
meet
nice
you
to meet you,
both.
Nice to
Wesley.
meet you,
Yeah, thank you
Wesley.
guys so much
Thank
for letting
you.
me join. Such an honor to hear your story. Very impressive.
Thank you for the
Thank
opportunity.
you. Have a good one.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
Bye now.